What it do, Misfit family, back here for an episode 2 on the Misfits. It's your host, Jude Reynolds Ocanas. Welcome back to the Reynolds Sports Report. And man, we had a busy weekend when it came to sports across the globe, to be honest. I mean, it was a crowded weekend. But I got to start with the hometown kids. And that's a congratulations to USC baseball, not because they won the College World Series, but because in the first time in a decade, they made it to the NCAA tournament. Unfortunately, their season ended in a 9-0 defeat to Oregon State, who's one of the best teams, I will say, in the NCAA tournament. But really shout out USC baseball because this has been a program that has had to go through a lot of ups and downs. I'm talking everything from new head coach in the past 3 seasons to basically getting pushed out of their home stadium in response to USC football building this new $200 million facility. So they've had to go through quite literally everything. I mean, they were playing home games down in Orange County, they were playing at LMU, they had to play all across, and they were still able to finish this season 37-23. So shout out Andy Stankiewicz, their head coach. He's in his first 3 seasons has produced back to back to back 30-win plus seasons, and next year they're going to be back. They're going to be back at USC. So it's good to see a team with this type of momentum that they can now bring back to campus and say, you know what, we showed you what we've been able to do. They upset St. Mary's earlier this week or earlier last weekend. And obviously, Oregon State was a great foe. We've seen them many years in the Pac-12, and unfortunately, they lost back-to-back games. They lost on Sunday, 14-1, and they unfortunately dropped tonight, 9-0. But that shouldn't overshadow what they have put together this season, which has been anything but underwhelming. I mean, like I said, back-to-back 31 seasons. They were 37-23, and a lot of young guys who kept balling. So I got to give out a shout to USC baseball because being a USC kid myself, it's always good to see when your teams are doing well. And I know that the future is bright for this USC baseball team. But you probably read the title and you're wondering, the French Revolution. Dude, what are you talking about? That was 300 years ago. That was centuries ago. Why you want to talk about the French Revolution? I don't want to talk about that French Revolution. I want to talk about the French Revolution that happened on Saturday when Paris Saint-Germain went in to Munich for the Champions League final and put together one of the best performances I've seen on a soccer pitch. And that was defeating Inter Milan 5-0 in the Champions League final. Now, if you didn't catch this game, no problem. You can watch the highlights. The highlights are enough to tell you what happened in this game. It ended up being 5-0, and it was the biggest win in Champions League championship history. The closest one was a 4-goal differential in like 1960 by Real Madrid, but even that game was 7-3. PSG didn't allow a single goal, and I don't want to. I'll get into the game real quick, but what Inter Milan did was they robbed us. They robbed us of what would have been a classic, an absolute classic Champions League final if it was Barcelona versus PSG. For those that aren't in the know, Inter Milan defeated Barcelona in 2 legs to go to the Champions League final. If they would have had lost or not made a 116th minute goal to send them over the edge and win 7-6 in aggregate, we could have been talking about a whole different game. But instead, they robbed us. And Barcelona and PSG were the 2 best teams in Europe to this game. I mean, Barcelona finished with a total of 88 points, the most out of any top 5 league. And then PSG finished with 84, the second most out of any top 5 league. So that would have been a classic. So Inter Milan, why did you have to rob us? Well, let's talk about this game because PSG and Inter Milan were 2 very different play styles. And I was sitting next to Eric E. Lamb, chopping it up with him. And so we watched this game together. And what I said to him first is, PSG, the way they want to win this game is by relentless attack. I mean, we've seen it all Champions League. We've seen guys do a Dembele, the way they've been able to attack the wings. And then what we saw in that Champions League final was just what they've been doing all season. This wasn't something new. And I say this, and I don't mean in a disrespectful way. I think we knew this game was over by the first 10, 15 minutes, or honestly 20 minutes, I should say, because there was a goal in the 12th minute and in the 20th minute by Hakimi and then Due, his first of two. But I mean, to me, look, you have the goal scorers, Dembele, Hakimi, Due. But what really, really stood out was this PSG midfield. Neves and Vitina, like those guys right there are what won this game for them. I mean, their possession of the ball, first of all. I mean, the way they were able to basically contain possession the whole entire game. I mean, I know you could read the stats and it's 58 to 42. It felt like PSG had the ball pretty much for 80, 90% of this game. And if anything, they were creating 90 to 100% of all the chances in this game. So really, it was PSG's midfield that I just the way they were able to operate in open space. I mean, it looked like Inter Milan didn't even have a midfield out there, and they played with three midfielders, like three like center midfielders. When you look at PSG and their lineup, they only got one true midfielder in that middle, and then they have wings, and then they have their attackers. And it was so impressive how this team was still able to control the midfield throughout a 90-minute match. But beyond just the midfield, and this is where I say I could tell that the game was over within maybe the first 15 to 20 minutes. There was a clear difference of just athleticism and pace between these two teams. And I don't mean that in a disrespectful way. I mean to say that PSG showed who they are, a very young, hungry team. I mean, their average age for PSG right now is 24 years old. The average age for Inter Milan is 29 years old. That alone should tell you what you need to know. But I mean, just the relentless attack in the speed in which they did it. I mean, on kick balls, on goal kicks, pretty much for Inter Milan, they were pressuring the ball regardless. They were up in their grill, they were pressuring them, pressuring them, pressuring them, pressuring them, and you just knew at a certain point, like Inter Milan was not going to be able to take it. And as this game progressed, you could tell, like, I mean, not that they got many chances, but in the chances they got in the second half, I mean, they were just so burnt out from playing defense that their attack would instantly mitigate the second they got into PSG's final third or final defense, I should say. And so, I mean, PSG, a huge victory for them, their first ever Champions League. And that's something that, it's a big deal. I mean, they haven't won one in forever. And so I think going forward, this PSG team is going to be scary, and it not just this PSG team, but also this French team. I mean, you have Dembele, you have Due, who's also played amazing. Nunes on the defensive end, and you got some guys in the midfield, and then I mean, you're also talking about guys from across Mbappe still. I mean, and that's the crazy thing. This team literally left Mbappe. He went to Real Madrid to hopefully get that Champions League that they won the year before, and they failed in that. Couldn't even win La Liga, and in the first year that he was gone, they won the Champions League. It's kind of ironic how that works, but I think you got to give a lot of props to the whole entire staff of PSG. I mean, the way they were able to, I mean, obviously they dominated League One because that's what they do. But I mean, to be honest, like Luis Enrique, the Spanish head coach for PSG, he's been there for 2-3 years now. He has put together a fabulous team and a team that can work at any dimension. And so, I don't want to spend too much time on this, but it was one of those finals that is going to go down in the history books because people will remember the absolute dominance that we saw from PSG. And it's needed. I mean, the PSG showed that they were one of the best teams in Europe, if not the best team. And like I said, it would have been a whole lot more fun if it was Barcelona because I guarantee you guys it would have been Barcelona PSG. I would have, and I'm not trying to guarantee something, but I would have guaranteed it would have gone to extra time. It would have been a 3-3 type of game, and it maybe potentially going to extra time. So, I don't have many much words to say because it was just dominance. I mean, you even had a backup come in at the 84th minute who literally spent 2 minutes on the field before he scored another goal. Like that is the type of dominance that PSG put on the field. And I mean, if you see anything from the scenes in Paris, it's like Philadelphia winning the championship or Chicago. I mean, it was crazy. I mean, they were lighting stuff on fire, which, to be honest with me, never makes a lot of sense. Like, I get it. You want to enjoy your championship, but really destroying your city seems like the opposite, right? Because then you're going to wake up the next morning. Granted, your team's still going to be a champion. That doesn't change. But you're going to wake up and be like, damn, traffic's really bad. Well, I would wonder why. I would really wonder why. On the topic of traffic, I should say, I started a new job. I'm doing play-by-play for the Caneo Oaks this summer. Doing play-by-play, doing color. It's gonna be a great summer. But here's the thing: it's in Thousand Oaks, and I'm driving back from Thousand Oaks today, and I'm gonna have to get used to this typical route. But I probably got halfway through my journey, and it said when I was coming back from my journey, it was probably saying 50 to 55 minutes it was gonna take back. I'm halfway through my journey, and there's probably 25 minutes left. And I look at my screen, and it turns right back to 50. That's just the duality of living in LA, man. I mean, but this is what I wanted to post. This is what I post. And for all those listening, for all those watching later on, what do you prefer? Are you a podcast person or are you a music person when you're in a long drive? Because recently, I will say, I've been becoming a podcast person. I've been listening to the Smart Less podcast with Will Arnett, Jason Bateman, and Sean Hayes. They do a great job. But I've found myself really liking the podcast feel recently. Like I love music, and music will always be number one. You could turn on any tune from any genre, and I'm going to love it. I don't know. Sometimes when you're sitting in a car, you almost kind of, and this is granted when you're alone, you kind of want the feel of you're in some sort of conversation with someone. So that's why personally I prefer the podcast on a long drive. Let you guys let me know what you guys feel, but me personally, I'm going to podcast. If you guys got suggestions of great podcasts, I could use another one. Smart Less is good, but I could always use another one. But this reminds me. So yesterday I went to a Los Angeles Sparks game for the first time this season. Last year I was fortunate enough to cover them throughout the season, so spent more time in kind of the press box and that same. But this was my first real time actually going to the press, sorry, not the press, sitting in the stands and watching a game. Shout out my boy J Mart. We might have him on the show eventually. USC grad. He worked on Talker Troy with me, and so great guy. But he got a skybox ticket, so I was sitting lounge. I was sitting up in the skybox, enjoying my time, and it was the LA Sparks versus the Phoenix Mercury, and I could go more in depth in the game. If you guys listened to the podcast last night with me, the PG, and Eric, you would know what happens and our thoughts on just the collapse that the Sparks showed yesterday, and then also what they've just showed in recent years, which is terrible second half basketball and turnovers and sloppiness. It's a whole ordeal that it deserves its own podcast on itself. But this is something that I noticed, and I hadn't been to Staples or Crypto as it's kind of known now. I hadn't been there in a while, and it came upon me. I was looking up, and I was looking at all the banners. You obviously see all the great Lakers. You see the 17 championships and the in-season tournament banner that once again was, why did we do that, Lakers? Like it was just, I understand, like you want to be like, oh look, we won the first ever until like in-season tournament. It just kind of looks dumb. I'm sorry. Like the in-season tournament banner up with all 17 trophies, all 17 championship banners, just looks super out of place. I guess it's LA, so that you want to be like, oh look, we won this, but it's lame. I'm gonna call it lame. Even as a Lakers fan, it's lame that we have a banner for an in-season tournament and we didn't win the championship that year. But it came across my mind that I was looking. Obviously, you have all the greats, all the retired jerseys of the hockey players, of the Kings players and the Lakers players, and even the Sparks players. But it came across me that all but one of those teams has statues across the board. The Kings have 10 statues. The Lakers have 8 statues. Hell, they got a statue for Oscar De La Hoya, one of the great boxers of all time. But they don't have a statue for Lisa Leslie. And it got me thinking of saying, look, obviously the WNBA is not as popular as the NBA, and maybe you could probably argue is not as popular as the NHL. But Lisa Leslie deserves a damn statue. I mean, this woman came into the WNBA in their inaugural season, and from that moment was not just one of the best players for the Los Angeles Sparks, but she was one of the best players in WNBA history and at that time. I mean, she's a 3-time MVP, 2-time NBA champion. She's gone to 8 All-Star games. And get this. She was a 2001 Sportswoman of the Year. And she was also the first player in WNBA history, not Sparks history, to reach 3,000 points, 4,000 points, and 6,000 points. And so I'm thinking to myself, and I'm saying, you got a lot of greats up there. You got a lot of greats that got statues. Why does Lisa Leslie not have one? Because her impact on the Sparks was monumental. She won them their first championship, won them their second championship. By the way, finals MVP in both of those. And she's also the career leader in points, rebounds, minutes, blocks, and field goals. Lisa Leslie needs a statue. And it needs to happen soon. Because when I look at all these other players, they're fantastic. But what have they done? They've also been huge components of building up a franchise like the Kings, like the Lakers. And so has Lisa Leslie. And so if I went into the drawing room and they asked me, myself, to and they were like, Jude, what if we were to do this Lisa Leslie statue? What would we do? And it's easy. 2002, July 30th. Lisa Leslie became the first ever player to dunk in a WNBA game. That is the statue. And I think all Sparks fans and all WNBA fans, to be honest, and anyone that lives in Los Angeles, because she was also one of the best players in college. And guess where she played? Right down Figueroa for USC. So she's an LA legend. She is an LA legend through thick and thin. And she needs a damn statue. So the Spark season ain't going great, but I know they can boost some attendance if they get a Lisa Leslie statue out there. So Sparks, hit me up. I'll be part of the creative team, whatever y'all need. I'm willing to do anything you need me. But let's get Lisa Leslie a statue because she damn well deserves one. Now, I don't want to go too much into Sparks because, like I said, we talked about it last time. It's not really worth my time right now. Look, the Sparks right now, they suck. Okay, there's no like easy way to put this. They suck. I mean, it's a developmental year. They've got a lot of young people on that squad. They've got rookies. I'm still trying to fathom the Kelsey Plum trade. I don't really have a problem with Kelsey Plum. I think she's an absolute bucket. She's a multiple-time WNBA champion, I should say. All first team selections, all-star selections. They did not need Kelsey Plum. And I think the reason that they grabbed Kelsey Plum was simply because it was, oh, we need a household name. We need someone who catches the eye of a nationwide WNBA fan. Look, I love Dearica Hamby. She doesn't do that. She doesn't do that, right? Like Kelsey Plum has a presence outside of basketball. Dearica Hamby, she's well known. I mean, she was also part of those Aces teams that won championships, but she's not a Kelsey Plum. And so I think for the Sparks, they're like, okay, we need a household name. But they traded the second overall pick. I mean, there was so much talent in this year's draft that I was thinking, man, like, could have got someone, like you could have built because first of all, this team's not they're bottom 3 in the WNBA right now in standings. They're not going to scratch the playoffs. They're not, right? It's another building year, and Kelsey Plum doesn't really fit into the timeline of what the Sparks need it to be. Look, she's a great player. She's going to give you some great games, like some games where she's going to drop 30. She didn't have a great game yesterday, but she can give you those types of games. She's definitely become more of a facilitator with this team. Like she's really, really trying to get the ball and spread the wealth, which is great, but I do think she needs to score some more. But overall, the Sparks, you got one mission. Let's bring Juju Watkins to the yellow and purple. That should be your mission. I mean, and I know it's another rebuilding year, and it's terrible to say that, but you get Juju Watkins in the yellow and purple playing in crypto.com arena, you're going to be selling that place out. I saw when Caitlin Clark came to town. She's a phenomenon, right? Like it brought people all across LA to that game. You get Juju Watkins. I'm not saying every game's going to be sold out, but I'm telling you a good portion of those games going to be sold out. Juju Watkins is a star. Look, I think she's coming in with a lot more publicity than Caitlin Clark did in college in her full 4 years, right? Caitlin Clark really got put on the scene her junior season, then senior season, and then she came to the WNBA. Juju Watkins has had the spotlight since her freshman season. So Sparks, let's do two things. Let's go to Lisa Leslie statue, and let's get Juju Watkins to LA. That is what you need to do. Don't worry about winning games this year. It's okay. It's okay. Spark fans will accept it if you get a Lisa Leslie statue up there and you get Juju Watkins, like I said, in that yellow and purple. But to wrap things up, since it's a Monday night here on The Misfits, thank you guys for joining me. If you are tapped in, if you're watching a recording, I really appreciate you guys tapping in. We're trying to get this thing rolling. Make sure to check out the other shows. We got the PG going. He was on earlier today, so I'm your nightcap tonight on Monday night. Elam's always cooking in the studio. And then, the Professional Hater Association with our guys, Ethan, Daniel, and Tony. They're always a fun listen. I mean, they love to yap about basketball, and I love to hear them yap about basketball because it's just like you're sitting on your couch and listening to those guys talk about it. Like that's really what it is. It's like you're having a conversation with your buddies on the couch, and that's great. And they're hilarious. Tap into all those guys, obviously, The Misfits on all social media and YouTube platform. But we got to get to one last thing because I don't know when I'm going to be going live for you on Thursday, and there's a potential that Game 1 of the NBA Finals is underway. So we got to talk about it real quick. And it's going to be the buzz. It's going to be the buzz this week. I mean, there's the College World Series going on, but this is it. This is what people have been waiting for, and I'm excited. I have to say, I know there's been a lot of talk of, is this good for the NBA? Like, are they going to be able to sell this? If you don't like this, I'll say it again. You don't like basketball. This is a fun, energetic, entertaining type of matchup we got here. I mean, you have two teams who, first of all, are relatively young. I mean, the Thunder, they're like the prodigal baby, right? They're like the prodigy. They're the prodigy. You have the Thunder as the prodigy, and then you have the Pacers as these, I don't want to say underdogs because they've been extremely good in 2025. But they're kind of, they're the underdogs going into this matchup, but they're kind of looked at as like, oh, it's the Pacers, it's Indiana. I know that's where basketball heaven is, and all 4 United States, it's just basketball, but it's really basketball in Indiana. But the point is, this is going to be an energetic matchup. So let's break it down. Let's start with the Thunder. How do the Thunder take care of business? By the way, the Thunder are one of the biggest favorites heading into an NBA Finals, I think ever. And rightfully so. I mean, they were clearly the best team in the regular season. They have the MVP in Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. The supporting cast is like none other, right? Like none other. And I want to pose this question to you guys. Are the Thunder a super team? Like, are they a super team? We were talking about in the pod last night with Eric and the PG. And Eric was saying they're a super team. I personally think the way this team is constructed. Now, don't get me wrong. Does this have the makings to be a dynasty? 100%. 100%. And the craziest part about this Thunder team is this might be the worst they are. Like, they're only going to get better. They're only going to probably have more MVP seasons from Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. Chet Holmgren is only going to get better. Jalen Williams is only going to get better. And the bench is full of dudes who are 22, 23 years old. So this could potentially be the worst Thunder team we see, which is scary for the Western Conference and the rest of the NBA. But I don't really buy into the Thunder being a super team. I think the way they've constructed this team is grassroots, and it's hard for me to call that a super team. When I think of a super team, I'm thinking of the James Harden, Kevin Durant, Kyrie Irving type, right? Like you're buying these superstars to come on your team, basically, and then you're going to go win a championship. That to me, that is super. You have guys already in their prime who are already at that MVP, that all NBA type of level, and then they come to your team, and then you win a championship, right? Like that to me is more of a super team than what we have here with the OKC Thunder. So how are the OKC Thunder going to take care of business and win their first championship in a long time? It starts with limiting turnovers. And to be honest, I'm going to sound like a broken record when I talk about the Pacers because this is also a similar point, but really limiting the turnovers. We've seen the Pacers team in these past 3 series, right? Against the Bucks, against the Cavs, and lastly, and most recently, against the Knicks. And what was so damning about them and what they could do to every single one of these teams is fast break and taking advantage of turnovers. I mean, this Pacers team is top 3 in pace, right? They're going to push the pace. And in transition, they're first in points per possession. So it's not like this is they're top 5. No, they are first in points per possession. This team loves to get out in transition. And so if you're the Thunder, you have to limit the turnovers. And how do you do that? Obviously, playing a lot more team complementary ball. I think isolation ball for either of these teams is going to be the death of them. I just think if you go into isolation ball against either of these teams, they will take advantage of that. But to me, and I know this sounds crazy, but you have to make the Pacers one-dimensional. And how do you simply do that is, as great as Tyrese Halliburton is as a scorer, and I think, to be honest, and I'll say this again, sometimes he hits threes, and I don't even know how, because that form, I mean, I played basketball growing up. I've never seen a more broken form be so pure. I mean, I've seen this guy attempt 30 footers or 40 footers with that form and sink it. And you're thinking, how is that even possible? But what I mean by one dimensional is take away his assist game, take away his playmaking ability, because he is the brain in the operations of what is the Indiana Pacers. And so if you can truly take away what he is doing when it comes to his passing ability, and you make him one dimensional, and you say, you know what, you have to score off the dribble yourself, that is, to me, how you take away the Pacers offense. Because they work really well in the half court. They move the ball a lot. They do a lot of off-ball movement. But if you take away Tyrese Halliburton, a guy that is pretty much averaging close to 10 assists this postseason, if you take away that, that is how you can take away the Pacers. Obviously, limiting turnovers is a big thing. So my X factor for the Thunder is going to be Jalen Williams. And not really for the reasons of taking away Tyrese Halliburton, even though I could see Jalen Williams and Tyrese Halliburton matching up at some moments in this series. But Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, I mean, like in any series, is going to get the most attention, right? And I think a Pacers team with a very, very well experienced coach in Rick Carlisle, like this team is going to know how to play smart defense against the team that has just been so dominant. Jalen Williams, this is your opportunity to really put your name out there. Look, Jalen, J-Dub, whatever you want to be called, your name's already out there. There's already, I mean, you were first-time All-Star this year. Like, the respect is slowly garnering for you. This is now the biggest stage for you to do it. And so my X factor is going to be Jalen Williams, because Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, he's going to get his own. But I know they are going to make his life hell. And so Jalen Williams can give you some 25, 30-point games. It's going to be tough. It's going to be tough for the Pacers to really go against that. So Jalen Williams is going to be my X factor for the Thunder. And lastly, I'll finish up with this. The Pacers. How can they slow down this Thunder team who has been so red hot in the playoffs? I've talked about it last week. They were 12-4 through the whole entire playoff stretch up until this NBA Finals. How do you stop a team that almost looks indestructible? Like they don't look like they have flaws. I said it on the podcast last week. I don't see them having many flaws. So what do you do? First of all, and it goes back to what I said with the Thunder, limiting the turnovers. It's as simple as that. You have to limit the turnovers against another Thunder team that loves to get out and go and run. I mean, the first in fast break points this year, in the postseason, and the first in points off turnovers. So the Pacers, if there's any team that has to play more mistake-free basketball, that is the Indiana Pacers. If they have any slip-ups, and I know this is crazy, if they have any slip-ups, and I mean even 2 or 3, you're gonna lose the game. It's that simple. The Thunder team have been near perfect, and so if you allow them to get a few steals here, a few charges here, like you've got to be extremely smart. It's gonna be tough in a place like OKC where the crowd noise has definitely played an impact on visiting teams. But when it comes to what they also can do on defense, is taking away the pick and roll game. If you watch the Thunder and the way they use Hartenstein and they use Holgerman, they love the pick and roll. And they're what they did it against Minnesota because they knew they could do it against Gobert. They are going to attack Miles Turner. And so from a basketball perspective, if you're the Indiana Pacers, you have to front every screen and not allow any sort of air between you and the ball handler, whether it's Shai Gilgeous-Alexander whether it's Jalen Williams, you cannot allow any air. I mean, if I was Indiana Pacers, I would put on tape of Alex Caruso playing defense against Anthony Edwards. As crazy as that sounds, I mean, the way that he was able to absolutely take any sort of hope that Anthony Edwards had scoring when Alex Caruso was guarding him, that is what you have to do. That is what you are going to have to do. And so for the Pacers right now, they got their work cut out for them. But the one guy that's got the most work cut out for him, because this is my X factor truly for the Pacers, Andrew Nembhard. And if you're a Gonzaga fan, you've seen this guy grow. You've seen him, reach the heights that he's reached. But Andrew Nembhard is without a doubt an X factor. Is my X factor. Tyrese Halliburton is extremely important. Pascal Siakam, extremely important. Both of those guys are going to have to play their A game. But I know that they're possible of playing their A game. That's why I put Andrew Nembhard. Because Andrew Nembhard is going to have to pick up Shai Gilgeous-Alexander for however many games they play, whether it's 4, 5, 6, or 7, 94 feet for 48 minutes. He's going to have to do it. And he did it against Jalen Brunson, and you know what? It works. It works. It doesn't matter how great of a player you are going to get worn down. And so for a guy like Andrew Nembhard, he is going to have to put his body on the line. He's going to have to put his body on the line. And if he could do it, I think the Pacers could sneak out a win here or there. But unfortunately, as much as I'd love to see the upset, I really would. It's the Thunder. The Thunder are going to win this. They're going to win this in 5 or 6. I'm going to say Thunder. I was saying Thunder in 6 on the podcast last night. I'm switching to Thunder in 5 the more I think about it. The Thunder right now are playing the best basketball. And like I said last week, they are flawless, top to bottom. I mean, you go anything from, their starting 5 to their bench, which, by the way, the Pacers also do have to win that. They have to win the bench minutes. That is so vital. I mean, these are 2 of the best bench units in the NBA, and one of them has to come out top. If it's OKC, that's fine. But if the Pacers can come up on top, and if they can win those bench minutes, if they can take away those valuable 10, 15 minutes where they can go on a 5-0 stretch, a 10-0 stretch, those could be impactful minutes. But unfortunately, I'm taking the Thunder. And the Thunder in 5. I mean, look, I want to see the upset. I do. I really want to see this game go to 7. I want to see this go to 6. But I gotta trust my gut. The Thunder have played way too good this year. I could see the Pacers taking a game in Indiana, but I think outside of that, it's gonna be tough. Now, if there's any team to do it, Rick Carlisle, who infamously is known for coming back or not coming back, for defeating the 2011 Heat squad with LeBron James, Dwayne Wade, Chris Bosh, and he was the coach of the Dallas Mavericks, who really just had Dirk Nowitzki. I mean, Jason Terry and an old Jason Kidd, but really, I mean, the miracles he did for Dallas was insane. But unfortunately, this is a Thunder team that he's now running into, and it's the potential of a dynasty. We are watching the potential of a dynasty. But that's to wrap it up here on the Misfits for a Monday night. I thank you guys for joining me on the nightcap. It's a pleasure. I'll see you guys around the corner on Thursday, and we'll see. Maybe the Thunder get shocked in game 1, but I got Thunder in game 1. So signing off, it's been your boy, Jude Reynolds Ocanas from the Reynolds Sports Report.